What is up, everybody? It's the Golf on CBS Show. Patrick McDonald and I did this a year ago on the YouTubes. They've allowed us on TV now doing this live. Johnson Wagner has joined us as well. Patrick, I'm assuming you have makeup on today. I mean, this is the biggest deal possible, right?
Of course, and I feel like we're only on TV just so people can see Johnson's mustache, right? YouTube wasn't enough for it, I know. It's all their age right now with the young kids and the attention economy, but people needed to see Johnson Wagner's mustache on TV, and we finally got it done.
Johnson, I heard you had a Go ahead.
I had shaved it off back in September. Just wanted to make sure everybody knew that I grew it back, and it's better than ever. I'm pretty happy with this version.
Yeah, I know there was a clause in the contract that Johnson cannot do only YouTube content, so they had to put us on for at least an hour a day on TV. Johnson, how's the transition been? How's it been? I know obviously you haven't got going yet on TV, but how has 2026 been so far?
It's been great. I've been trying to sort of onboard into the whole CBS protocol, having a lot of Zoom meetings. It's been fun. It's been exciting. I'm really happy that I'm kind of starting off as the new guy again at square one, because it's allowing me to work hard and try to prove myself yet again. Not that I ever got comfortable over at Golf Channel, but at the same time, I like starting over and feeling like I've got something to prove to everybody.
Well, we are obviously fired up to have you on. I know, Patrick, and you did a chat that's on the CBS YouTube page. People can watch that as well, kind of talking about what the year's going to look like for you. Patrick, last year we started this show, didn't really know what it was going to be. Obviously, I mean, early into the year, didn't talk a lot of Scottie Scheffler, and then we got into a lot of Scottie Scheffler talk. Not going to be the case this year. Scottie, no raviolis, no wine glasses, just going to go out there and win basically the first start of his season and do it in Scottie Scheffler fashion. I mean, we need to warm up to this stuff, right? I mean, the fact that we get into the year and it's basically slow, snow everywhere around the country, and this guy in one of the few warm places in the United States goes out there and dominates once again.
You know, I thought it was really telling during his Player of the Year press conference. Scheffler brought up how he kind of got off to a slow start there in 2025 and how he was really honing in on his endurance leading into 2026. And you go back to even 2022, going into that year where he won that first title of his on the PGA Tour, there's always been kind of some question marks, right? A young player, but he hasn't won. He goes into 2023. He hadn't won since the Masters, despite the 4 wins there. Into 24, he can't putt. Into 25, he's not 100% healthy. This is the first year, Shane and Johnson, where it feels like we have 100% full flight Scottie Scheffler from the jump. And so that is extremely terrifying if I'm anyone else on the PGA Tour. And I think Scottie Scheffler looked at his year last year and said, hey, I gave these guys a few months head start. He obviously won 6 out of his last 12, but that head start is nowhere to be seen in 26.
Johnson, it's we talk so much in golf about how hard it is to win. And then you get these generational style players where they make winning feel very comfortable and easy. And I think something that a lot of people have talked about over the last couple of days is the ways this guy can win. I mean, he can win on tough golf courses. He can win on tight golf courses. I mean, he can win at Harbour Town. He can win at Augusta National. And then he can go out and win if he's got to shoot 26, 27 under par. I think Tiger did a little of that, but Tiger won a lot of his events at tough golf courses. The fact that he can diversify the portfolio like this is something that I find so astonishing, is the fact that Scottie can win when he's driving it great, when he's hitting the irons great. He always pitches it well, and now the putter, obviously, for the last 11, 12 months has been a weapon of his.
It has, and I think he's probably one of the most complete players we've seen in a long time. And what you notice about Scottie over the last year or so with all these wins, really since May at the Byron Nelson, he's starting to win golf tournaments by an incredible margin. How many events he's won by 4+ strokes in the last 6-7 months is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's scary if you're a player on the PGA Tour right now, seeing the way Scottie's just starting to dominate stuff. And then when you listen to him about how he talks about how he prepared in the offseason, he's trying trying to do things in the gym to make his longevity a little better, to make his body react better and be more consistent over the time. I mean, he's getting old now. He's going to turn 30 this summer, so he's already looking into his late 30s. I think we're in for a stretch, and I honestly believe the best of Scottie Scheffler's yet to come. I know that's crazy to say, coming off of 4 straight Player of the Years, but I truly believe that we may be about to witness Scottie's best year yet this year, which I ultimately believe will end with a career Grand Slam on his 30th birthday at Shinnecock.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick, I was looking at 2000 the other day, the Tiger year, obviously. I mean, he finished in the top 25 the whole season, and the consistency is there, Johnson. Something I touched on a lot over the years is the margin of victory, right? I mean, the fact that when he wins by a lot. And you mentioned it 9 times he's won by 4 shots or more. I mean, some of those that he didn't touch were the 4-putt at Augusta National, right? I mean, he would have won that by 4 as well. I mean, he makes some late bogeys and doubles as players do, but it just feels inevitable. It feels over when it happens. And you've got this guy that it never necessarily looks sexy, Patrick. It's not like he's out there fist pumping every putt and he's running around the green when stuff goes in. But the thing I continue to go back to, and I said this on Twitter on Sunday, is the pitching. I mean, I don't know a great player that pitched the golf ball this well. The fact that every pitch shot looks like it's going to go in or has a chance to go in and has the perfect speed. I know Colt Knost has talked a lot about pitching against this guy when he was a kid, but the fact that you're this good of an iron player and when you miss a green, you nearly chip in every time. You know, I'm sure when you're playing this guy, if you're Blades Brown out there going, this is the dude I got to play against. I mean, how do I beat this guy when these are the skill sets he possesses, right?
I mean, his pitches and chips rolled more pure than some of Siwoo Kim's putts there on Sunday. Like, let's be honest about it, right? And it got to the point where Blades Brown, even after his round, right, he said Scottie Scheffler's chipping and pitching in person, just his spin control, the different shots he's able to hit is so underrated. It's not something that he expected. And then you hear Scottie Scheffler talk about it in preparation for 2026 and how frustrated he was last year being on the sideline, not being able to prepare on his chipping and pitching for those 4 to 6 weeks where he was out. And he talked about how much of a difference those tap-ins are as opposed to kind of those 5 to 7 footers, which he was leaving himself a lot of early in 2025, and how those stack up throughout the course of 72 holes of tournament golf. And we saw on Sunday, it was just so stress-free. He put his golf ball in the correct place every single time. I think about 13, that par 3 with the water on the left, airing it out to the right, easy chip there, tapped in for par and continued his momentum. And it just seems like Scottie Scheffler is continuing to do this, especially around the greens, and just limiting the stress, I feel like is so important and kind of an underrated aspect of tournament golf that the viewer doesn't really appreciate it. And right now, no one is doing it better than Scottie Scheffler.
Johnson, do you remember when this golf course used to be hard? Like, did you play it and thought it was, and used to think it was hard? I mean, I remember growing up thinking this place was hard. And I mean, these guys go out and shoot, sub 65 the entire week.
I played my first final stage of Q School at the Stadium Course and Nicklaus Tournament back in December of 2002, and I finished near the bottom. Yes, I think it's brutally hard. But to Patrick's point about Scottie Scheffler's chipping, it was also on 5, the par 5, when he was tied with Siwoo, and Blades Brown was right there as well. Blades ended up making a double. Scottie hits it long left, gives himself all the green in the world to work with. He just doesn't make mistakes. And my son and I were talking. He's like, when is Scottie going to hit the shot that sort of seals this thing? And I said, well, he doesn't do it that way. What Scottie does is just he wears you down with consistency. And the shot into 16, the par 5, he played it up off the hills to the right, left himself another chip that he almost chipped in multiple times. Patrick, the one on 13 you mentioned was probably the most delicate touch I've ever seen from Scottie Scheffler. And I think he was trying to make it.
I mean, if Tiger's comp was MJ, and we've done the comp a lot, but I mean, it's probably not LeBron. If you're talking Scottie, it's probably Tim Duncan, right? It's fundamental golf. It's fundamental approach. It's never making a massive mistake. It's getting the ball in the hole as quick as you can, and then you add them up at the end. And all the while, that's what the game is supposed to look like, right? I mean, the fact that you hit a lot of fairways, hit a lot of greens, make a decent amount of putts, and when you miss the green, you pitch it close and knock it in. When you're not making bogeys, it's tough to play against. And I'd love to dive into the brain of Blades. I mean, because Blades was obviously very impressive for 3.5 days out there, but I'd love to dive into the brain of a guy that is new to professional golf and is playing out on the Korn Ferry Tour and is kind of the stud of the Korn Ferry Tour right now and is kind of one of those guys you're expecting to get a PGA Tour card, looking at this dude thinking, okay, this is basically where I've got to get to. That's a scary thing to think, and I'm assuming that flight out of there was probably a little bit of a stressful flight.
Yeah, I imagine so. And I look at Blades Brown and just the experience he was able to have alongside Scottie Scheffler. He mentioned that him and Scottie were talking in between shots, in between holes too. I know there was some stop and go there, especially on the par threes in Palm Springs. But I was really bummed for him not to notch that top 10 finish and get himself into the field for the Farmers Insurance Open and kind of parlay this momentum. But 8 straight days of competitive golf. Shane, I know you called him on the Korn Ferry Tour those first 4 days. And then to kind of parlay that into some more momentum, really thanks to that finish at the Myrtle Beach Classic last year, right? Probably doesn't happen. Able to get private jet voucher pretty much, which is the most
I need one of those.
PGA Tour golf thing voucher in the world, right? And so obviously an unbelievable experience. And I was just so impressed with how composed and poised he was, especially in the media. I mean, this guy is talking better than me, and he's only 18 years old.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell he knows exactly where he wants to go. I mean, the way he talks to the media and the stuff he says. Smart kid, very talented kid, by the way. Fun to cover him last year, obviously fun this season on the Korn Ferry Tour as well. We're going to get into a little bit more on the show. We're going to talk a little more Scottie Scheffler and maybe what this means as we look ahead at the rest of the season. Johnson, I thought you hinted a little bit about what the rest of the players have to be thinking right now with what we saw from Scottie Scheffler. And then we're going to get into some of the storylines we're looking at for 2026. And we're going to look ahead. I mean, Brooks Koepka's back, Farmers Insurance, obviously back here at CBS. We're excited to see what happens there in Southern California, another warm place around the country. So plenty more to come as we dive in to the 2026 PGA Tour season. Back here on the Golf on CBS show, Shane, Patrick, Johnson. Fellas, I want to dive a little deeper into Scottie Scheffler as we kind of look ahead at the year. And I had a question for you because the comp floating around obviously is always one guy, right? I mean, that's what we love to do when we comp guys that are dominating golf. You talk about Tiger and what Tiger did in his prime. So, Patrick, I'm going to start with you. He's not Tiger yet, but what does he need to do this season to get to a place where you really start to think of this guy like that other guy? What does Scottie need to do in 2026? Because last year obviously gets the 2 majors, right? The different majors, the non-masters. What does he have to do this season to where you truly start to believe this is that version of the modern professional?
You know, at the beginning of the year, I said Scheffler was going to join 25 wins, 5 major championship club. After 72 holes, I feel like I'm already shortchanging the guy, which, you never want recency bias to flood in like that, but clearly it is. But I'd love to see him hold 3 major championships at the same time, right? Not many people in the entire history of professional golf have ever done that. And obviously you have the Tiger Slam there in 2000. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. Obviously that would mean having to win the Masters again, defending at the PGA Championship and winning the US Open. But I think he could win the Masters here quickly, and suddenly he's in possession of 3 major championships going back to a defense. So for me, long term, I think Johnson kind of hit the nail on the head early when he said, I think Scheffler is going to age like wine. And you look at Woods' career, Tiger's career, and kind of the lack of winning he did in his 40s. If you think if there's an area where Scheffler could catch up to him, it'd be later in his career, not early on. But immediately this year, I'd love to see him hold 3 major championships simultaneously.
Wine, not wine glass. Johnson, does he have to do something this year, in your opinion, to get there? I mean, is there a way he could get there? I mean, I know you got to see, Tiger up close and personal. Is there a way that Scottie kind of gets to that point, in your opinion?
Well, I think when you think about Scottie Scheffler, he does it so differently than Tiger Woods does. But we've been living in a great era where Rory McIlroy finally completed the career Grand Slam on his 11th shot at the Masters, or 10th shot at the Masters. Jordan Spieth's been trying since 2017. Phil Mickelson's been trying for a long time as well. if Scottie Scheffler wins the U.S. Open in his first attempt to complete the career Grand Slam, I already feel like the Tiger comps are justified. But if he wins at Shinnecock on his 30th birthday, it'll be very similar to Tiger, who did it at St. Andrews back in 2000. I think it says a lot about a player mentally if they can complete that thing on the first attempt. So if he does it in June, I also think he's going to win the Masters this year as well, because he seems to win the Masters in even years, and it's 2026 now. So I think he's going to roll into Shinnecock with a full head of steam and is clearly going to be the favorite. Good golf course for him, too. I think when he gets that done, we can really start having that conversation about Tiger Woods.
Yeah, he's kind of got that Arnold Palmer thing going, right? Every other year he wins a green jacket. That's always fun to kind of see him get done. It's wild to consider that we have a player now. And I think, Patrick, you and I talked about it last year after the Masters with Rory. Easy to forget how great Rory season started, right? I mean, the fact that he kind of wins out of the gate and then he gets going early in the year. And I think we were all giving him 2 or 3 majors last year. I mean, Scottie obviously feels very different in terms of getting himself in contention at the majors and getting it done. I think the inevitability feeling we have as fans, very different than the stressful feeling we had on Sunday at Augusta last year, hoping Rory would eventually get it done. But, Johnson, you mentioned Shinnecock and we've talked Augusta National. It feels like the surprise factor when Scottie doesn't get himself in contention or potentially win. I think about Oakmont last year, right? The fact that it seemed like the perfect golf course for him. When he doesn't win there, that to me is the comp that's closest to Tiger, is almost the surprise when he doesn't win, and considering some of these golf courses, like I mentioned, I've been doing some Tiger research as of late and in around 2000, 2001, and you're surprised that he wasn't in contention at Southern Hills, right? Or you're surprised that he didn't win the 2000 Masters, or not really in contention there during his prime. I think that, to me, is that feeling. And I mean, we saw Xander a couple of years ago win 2 major championships. Obviously, Scottie coming off 2 major championships. To me, it's this year, right? It's what you're going to do after you have your career season, already getting a win on the PGA Tour. And of course, now we're going to focus on the big events and what he can do, not just at the majors, Patrick, but the players. I mean, it's easy to forget how dominant he's been at Sawgrass and what he could potentially do in terms of dominating that golf course in his career. I mean, he could go down as the greatest players champion of all time pretty easily.
Yeah, and the comp to Tiger, too, if you want to go season long, Tiger obviously had 9 wins in 2000. He had a couple 8-win campaigns, too, some 7-win campaigns, of course. Also, VJ had the 9-win season in 2004. Is that possible for Scottie Scheffler? You think about it, he's won 7 out of his last 13 PGA Tour events. He has a number of happy hunting grounds, too, right? Scottie Scheffler has courses that once he figures them out, he's figured them out for good. TPC Scottsdale, Augusta National. Think about all the places he's won multiple times. Bay Hill, you mentioned TPC Sawgrass, and the Players' Championship. So if we want another layer to that Tiger comparison, perhaps, I would love to see Scheffler challenge 9 wins and who knows, maybe even get to double digits, the first ever in the modern era of the PGA Tour. You game it out, he's probably going to be playing around 20 events with that percentage win, 6 out of the last 12 to end his 2025, 7 out of the last 13, including the American Express. It could possibly line up for him.
Johnson, we're like diving into Scottie stats right now. One thing that stood out to me is hasn't missed a cut since August of 2022. It's the floor is pretty high, just like the ceiling is massively high.
And on that same note about the miscuts, so Scottie Scheffler in his career, now 152 PGA Tour events, has missed 19 cuts. He's got 20 wins. There aren't many people in professional golf history that have more wins than missed cuts, and I absolutely think that is a mind-blowing stat. And Shane, you touched on Oakmont at the U.S. Open. I thought he was a good fit at Pinehurst as well, but I want to take you back to the week before Pinehurst last year in 2024. Or 2 years ago now in 2024, he won at Memorial the week before the U.S. Open in some of the most brutal conditions. I think he shot 73 on Sunday, one of his only over par rounds in a massive span. He was completely burnt out and exhausted going into Pinehurst. And at Oakmont last year, had we not had the amount of rain that we had, and the golf course could have been firm, fast, brutally tough Oakmont, I think Scottie Scheffler would have had a better chance. It's just, as you guys know, when you get rain like that and the softens up, it really brings a majority of the field back with a chance to win.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to I'd love to truly know what everybody else thinks right now. And I mean, they don't always give us the honest answers, but you've heard Rory talk about the guy, and Rory's pretty open in terms of what he says, to the public and to the press when he's talking openly about something maybe besides his mental approach to the game, especially around the major championships. I mean, what do you have to bring to a golf tournament when Scottie brings his best? And I do feel like that's probably what Phil thought, and that's probably what Ernie thought, and that's probably what VJ thought, and they all had to elevate, right? I mean, VJ had to elevate, Phil had to elevate. They all had to find new ways to get better at the game to simply compete when Tiger had his best stuff. And right now, there is no number two, right? I mean, Rory was close last year, but when you think about number two, and that's something we're going to get into in a bit, is that idea of number two. Who's going to be number two in 2026? Because I think there's a lot of candidates, Patrick, right now that could potentially put their name there. But right now, it feels like a slight void in terms of the person that can be relatively competitive to Scottie Scheffler.
I agree. And you even go back to the Open Championship at Portrush last year when Scottie was running away from the field. On Sunday, Rory was in front of media, and he said, I felt a little bit lucky early in the year where I picked up my wins when Scottie wasn't 100%. For him to admit that, I think speaks volumes. And then Siwoo Kim, he took to social media after the American Express and said Scottie was better than Siri, he was better than AI, he was better than ChatGPT. Hao Tong Lee was in the comments saying, hey, you want to go best ball against Scottie? Siwoo replied, he goes, I think we're going to need a third just to compete with him. So that's what these guys are clearly thinking about him right now in the run that he's on.
That's the nickname. The AI robot is Scottie Scheffler, the way he goes about his business. I mean, we played him on the Tiger Woods video games. Now we're getting to kind of see it as a human out there on the golf course. So when we return, we're going to get into some storylines, look at 2026, maybe outside of Scottie Scheffler, what us three are looking at as we get set for a big year. And then obviously we're going to talk a little bit about Brooks Koepka and the return to the PGA Tour. Johnson, I know you're excited about that, to see what Brooks can do out there once again playing PGA Tour golf. So more to come right here. Don't go anywhere. Back here on your TVs. If you're watching on YouTube, a reminder, this is on CBS Sports Network, noon Eastern on Tuesdays. During the break, we were talking about Johnson Wagner and potentially a job away from golf if this doesn't work out. Patrick, what was your dream job growing up if you didn't do this?
Oh, well, I don't know about dream job, but people forget I was an accountant before I got into the media space.
That's right. Is that a dream job, though?
It's
That's
steady.
a job.
It's steady. You want to talk about Sarbanes-Oxley compliance? Let me know, Shane. But dream job?
God, I think that's the next hour.
Probably something in golf. I feel like I'm living it right now.
Okay. Johnson, I always wanted to mow the medians on freeways when I was a kid. I always thought that looked like you accomplished something when you did that. What were you going to do, Johnson, if you didn't turn out to be a professional golfer?
Probably would have been a caddy maybe, but then my wife and I traveled in a motorhome for, 8-9 years of professional golf on the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour. So I think the answer would be I'd be a truck driver. I can sit behind the wheel for a long time driving down the highway.
Just dialed in. Podcasts, music, sunflower seeds, ready to rock. All right, let's get into some storylines for 2026. We all wrote down a couple. I'll kick us off here. And this is a little bit what we just talked about. This is kind of my Scottie Tiger year. You win 2 majors last year. What do you do this year? If he wins 2 majors this year, I'm talking 10, 11. Career-wise in terms of the number, I think totality for Scottie, considering the way he plays Augusta National and the fact that he's already won there now a couple times. So to me, this is that next season. What are you going to do the year after you have the year? And that's really my big focus on 2026 is that with Scottie Scheffler. I'm excited to see what he does once we get to Augusta and beyond. And Johnson, you already touched on it. Obviously, a chance to get the career Grand Slam very, very quickly on his 30th birthday on Sunday, which is pretty wild. Patrick, what do you have in terms of your first storyline for 2026?
It's pretty similar to yours. What do you do the year after you have the year? But it's with Rory McIlroy. And I think 2025 set up perfectly for him, where he has been a player throughout his career where if there's a carrot dangling in front of him, he tends to play better golf. And he had all those motivational checkpoints, it felt like, throughout 2025 with the Masters, returning to Portrush for the Open Championship, and then obviously the away Ryder Cup Bethpage Black too. And so I'm curious, what is he going to do without all that motivational, that easy motivational stuff that is laid out in front of Rory McIlroy? And then when you dive into his stats from 25, everyone talked about the wedge play and how it was so much better, so much more controlled leading into that Masters, but his iron play dropped off the back half of the year, specifically from 150, 175 yards. That's an area where he has typically made a lot of his noise, and you see the switch from blades to cavity back irons, cavity back Brown, right? Blades Brown changed his name now to cavity back. And quietly, Rory McIlroy had his best putting season too in 2025. So I feel like something's going to have to give for Rory this year. Is his putting going to stay there and his iron play is going to come back to that level, or is his putting going to drop off and that iron play is going to kind of stay where it is too? So I'm really interested to see where Rory goes without those motivational aspects, and with his iron play kind of in a little bit of a flux as he kind of gets it going there on the DP World Tour, and we'll see him there at Pebble Beach in a couple weeks.
Yeah, Johnson, Rory has always come off to me as a guy that likes the checklists, right? He likes having something on the board to point at. I thought last year a lot of us I was one of them that got it wrong after the Masters win, thinking now he's freed up. He's going to go out there and rip it up. And obviously that was the opposite case in terms of the way he played major championship golf. But for Rory, I'll be very interested in where he finds that level of motivation this season, considering all that happened last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think clearly going into the PGA Championship at Quail Hollow, we all thought he was just going to go on this incredible run. The weight was lifted. That didn't pan out. But I think Rory's finding motivation from different spots. He said in Dubai last week he's going to go play places he wants to play this year, not places that he feels like he has to play. So I think he's finally comfortable setting his own schedule, not being the voice of world golf and not having to go play on all these places to try to grow the game. I think he's going to look a little bit more in a good way, a little bit more selfish and play where he wants to play and enjoy it more. Because I think in the last couple of years, professional golf for Rory McIlroy turned into a job. He even said that in Dubai as well. He wants to go out and have fun playing golf, where that's how he grew up playing. That's how he got so good, was that love of the game and love of playing competitive golf.
Yeah, and I wrote a piece last year about what's left for Rory. I look at the Open next year, St. Andrews Open next year, the whole Jack Nicklaus quote about, you're not a player we remember unless you've won an Open at St. Andrews. That, to me, is the big motivation in terms of what's left on the resume. Johnson, I know you're kind of looking at the youngsters in 2026.
I am. I think when PGA Tour U program came out a few years ago, I was sort of a grumpy veteran player that wanted all these guys to go to Q school. But when you look at the totality of how these guys have performed, even like an Austin Eckroat was in that first class, went to the Korn Ferry Tour, came up, he's won twice. Now we've got this direct path. Luke Clanton got the accelerated card right to the PGA Tour. Michael Thorbjornsen was the second guy after Ludwig Åberg to get the direct path. David Ford this year. Johnny Kiefer, who went from PGA Tour U to PGA Tour Americas, finished number one in a shortened season, got to the Korn Ferry Tour, finished number one. Now he's a rookie on the PGA Tour. Which one of these young guys, we've already seen Michael Brennan win last fall at the Black Desert Championship, which one of these young budding superstars is going to be the first to get a win this year? And I think we're going to see multiple of those 4 or 5 guys that I named get that first win and sort of take that next step. Because when you look at who's going to challenge Scottie Scheffler, it's got to be someone from a younger generation. So who will it be?
Yeah, I mean, I think Neil Shipley as well is another name on that list of like young player that has a lot of talent that I think people are excited to see competing and being very interested and involved on the PGA Tour. And then, I mean, you talk PGA Tour U, I mean, Ben James, a youngster out of Virginia that's going to graduate this year. I know he's already excited and looking at some PGA Tour starts basically this summer to get himself ready as a pro. Patrick, any youngsters you're kind of focused on this season as you look kind of through maybe away from a Blades Brown?
I'm very high on Thorbjornsen coming into this year. I think, we can laugh about TGL stuff, but just being in the same room as Rory McIlroy and some of those guys, I think will only be beneficial to him. And then you look at his game. He is just such a great driver of the golf ball. If there's an area where he might need to clean up, I'm thinking the wedge play perhaps, but that's a fun area to clean up for a young guy, in my opinion. So of those guys Johnson mentioned, I think Thorbjornsen is going to be the guy to win first.
there's so many good young players. I mean, that's my favorite part about doing the Korn Ferry Tour throughout the year is the fact that you get to watch these guys come up and compete and potentially win. And I mean, Johnson, you said it. They're popping up quickly, man, and they're hungry. These young guys, it's not once every 5 years now. I mean, it feels like every year, they pop up on the PGA Tour and have an opportunity to compete and win. My second storyline is just number 2. Who's going to be the Avis this year in terms of the player that kind of pushes Scottie? I mean, obviously you got Rory. Is Rahm going to do anything in the majors? What's Bryson going to do? Brooks in terms of the hunger, maybe getting back to the PGA Tour. Even a Xander. I mean, Patrick, 2 years ago, it was Xander is really the number 2 in terms of PGA Tour and professional golf. And I mean, beyond those names, Ludwig, Collin Morikawa. I mean, we always talk Jordan and JT, right? Is there somebody that's going to emerge this year as that number 2 player? I don't know who it's going to be necessarily, but I hope there's somebody that floats around near the top of these big leaderboards and basically has themselves maybe a great year away from a Scottie Scheffler.
Yeah, if not, we're going to kind of go back to that Tiger comp, like VJ's 2004. That's kind of what Xander Schauffele's 2024 is trending towards, where during the reign of Scottie Scheffler, somehow this guy won 2 major championships. In the midst of that, people are going to forget about the rest. Obviously, they're at Valhalla, but still, it still happened. A name you didn't mention, Tommy Fleetwood, also. Kind of a slower start there in the desert in his home in Dubai, but he's a guy who just had so much confidence towards the end of the year. And what I like the most about Fleetwood, everyone talked about his inability to close, but he didn't really give himself a ton of chances, I thought, before the back half of that 2025 season. He's mentioned that the best players in the world, they're always in with a chance. I think Fleetwood's going to be around the first page of the leaderboard a lot and give himself more chances to win this year.
That is a 2026 U.S. Open champion, Tommy Fleetwood. Please, can you make sure you call him the correct name? He's gonna get that done there finally after that crazy final round. You've got kind of a return to form list, Patrick, in terms of players you're looking at this season to get back to playing some good golf once again.
Yeah, I was going through some of these guys' 2025 seasons, and a lot of guys had down years, right? It's easy to focus on Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy and how well they played, but you mentioned Xander Schauffele. He didn't make the Tour Championship for the first time in his career. Kind of ironic, right, when it starts from zero for the first time and Xander's not there, given his proficiency at Eastlake. Sahith Theegala battled some injury. Max Homa returning to form, it seems like. But I want to highlight Xander and where it went wrong for him. And you look on the greens, it's very clearly that his putter just let him down. He's typically inside that top 40 on the PGA Tour in strokes gained putting, but last season he was losing about 0.2 strokes to the field per round, and that obviously trickles to the rest of your game. You go to 2024, obviously it was the best season of his career, but he led the PGA Tour in terms of scrambling at 71%. Last year, that was down to 58%. He was number 1 in par 3 scoring. He played the par 4s in under par fashion. That obviously leads to a couple major championships and a boatload of top 10 finishes. He played both of those in over par fashion. And then it also trickles into the scoring side of things too, not just the saves. He averaged 2 less birdies per round. And so for Xander Schauffele, I think the fall swing was massive for someone like him. It showed his toughness, not quite that major championship toughness, but a different type of toughness that he's able to gut it out when things aren't going right. He played great at the Ryder Cup. He picked up that win at the Bay Current Classic in Japan. And so I'm expecting a return to form for Schauffele similar to 2024 this year. And it all stems from that putter and him getting back inside, I don't know, the top 20 in strokes gained putting.
Yeah, Johnson, he's a player that, the consistency of Xander has been so impressive throughout his career. Really, I mean, basically Aaron Hill's on. I mean, he's been one of the most consistent players in the world. Last year, really the outlier when you think about the way we've seen Xander go about his business.
Well, he had that rib injury following playing out at Maui, and I think it's funny that his putting was struggling because that was the one thing he could work on while he was recovering from the rib injury. It's a tough one to come back from, and it's kind of like Jordan Spieth coming back from a wrist injury last year. I know he was on your list as well, Patrick. I think Jordan having that year under his belt coming off of that wrist injury, I think we're going to see a steady improvement. I know he's been around since 2013, but Jordan Spieth is still young. He's in the prime of his career. Can we see him? I don't think we'll ever see 2015 Jordan Spieth again, but can we see some sort of level of that where we can have hope as Jordan Spieth fans? I'm a Jordan Spieth fan. Can we have that level of hope that we can see him get into contention in majors again and possibly pick off 1, maybe 2 more the rest of his career?
Yeah, Johnson, Jordan's still one of those, like, I'm going to turn the TV and watch this guy in contention fellas, right? And we don't have a ton of those in professional golf. I mean, I think Rory's always been that guy, obviously with Scottie. Brooks has been a guy like that for a long time. But Jordan Spieth's still one of those players when he's near the top of the leaderboard, no matter the golf tournament, you want to watch because you know it's going to be fun to watch no matter if it goes good or if it goes poorly. And I think all of us have kind of been waiting for Jordan Spieth to get back to that level of form. So excited about 2026, obviously excited about what's going to come. We're going to get into this week's golf tournament when we return. Johnson Wagner going to break down Torrey, the South Course, get into one of the toughest tests on the PGA Tour, and highlight some of the holes as we get set for a big week here on the PGA Tour and CBS. Oh, Johnson Wagner. We get a little golf this weekend here. CBS returns. It's Torrey Pines. It's the North Course. It's the South Course. Excited to see you join the team this week as well. But I want to get a little insight into Torrey South because it's a phenomenal golf course, a lot of fun to watch, and obviously a tough test for so many of the players.
Well, it's an absolute brute to play. Longest golf course on the PGA Tour, 7,800 yards it can stretch out to. This is the par 3-6 coming down. Just so many great holes right along the coastline. But I really want to talk about this stretch on the back nine. There's this stretch of 11. Also want to throw 15 in there that are just brutal, imperative to make pars. Last year when Harris English won, I think he finished his round with 12 straight pars to close out this tournament. Just shows you how difficult it can be. Now 11, par 3, 225 yards. This is the 18th hole as we look at it here. But 11's a par 3, plays downhill, 225 yards, plays typically into out of the left wind. It's a very narrow opening, deep bunkers on both the right and left-hand side. And if you miss this green, you see guys miss it way outside the edges of the bunkers and just leave themselves brutal up and downs. This is a great look from in front of the 11th green. Big tier on that back left side. Playing back into the wind, I've seen guys pull out lumber off of this hole, and it literally is a sliver as you look at it from the tee box.
I mean, this is one of those holes I remember during some of those U.S. Opens. I mean, guys hit it like miles right, and it's just no go. You know, to that right hole location, it's just like an auto bogey. Write it down. You might make double. It's really that start of that stretch, Johnson, where, I mean, you're kind of holding on to the steering wheel, hoping to get it in the house.
It is, and you just said it there, Shane. The main thing to focus on around Torrey, you're going to make bogeys. If you can limit doubles, if you can limit the big number, it's going to be really helpful. And one of the main places you have to do that is not only 11, but the very next hole, 12, 505-yard par 4, also plays straight back into the wind, typically maybe a little bit off the left. Here's a good picture of the second shot. That looks like Louis Oosthuizen hitting in. It's an incredibly narrow fairway, big, deep bunkers down the right-hand side. Thick rough, not much room to run it up, just a little bit up the right-hand side, big bunker fronting the left. 12's the kind of par 4 I would stay up at night when I was playing the Farmers Insurance Open, and I would have nightmares about having to play the 12th hole. It's just one of those par 4s. While it's beautiful, you're playing right down to the glider port where people paraglide off of. It is one of those holes. If you play it 3 times during the Farmers Insurance Open, because playing the North Course obviously as well, if you make 3 pars, you are running off of that golf course with a tremendous amount of pride.
Johnson, you mentioned lumber. I mean, it's a lumber approach as well for players, depending on the wind. I mean, you're seeing rare parts of the PGA Tour where guys might hit 5-wood or 7-wood into a par 4, which is obviously wild and rare to see in modern golf. You get a couple of brutes, okay, and then you maybe get a birdie on a par 5, but then the stretches continue on the South Course for you.
Yeah, 14's a great little hole, but 15 is 520-yard par 4. It is typically just a dead crosswind off your left-hand side coming off the ocean. And the fairway looks like a bowling alley. There's one little tree in the right rough, and if you miss it in the right rough, you basically have no chance to get it on the green. You'd have to run something up the left-hand side. And if you miss the fairway left, as we see in this photo, there are massive trees coming down the left-hand side. Even with a good lie, you have to shape something. At 15, this golf tournament is going to be won on this stretch coming down this middle meaty part of the back nine. 15 is another one of these brute par fours that Torrey Pines just hammers you with time and time again. But 11, 12, 15 are my crucial holes that you have to play well if you're going to hoist that trophy come Sunday.
Yeah, it's Patrick, it's a golf course that I feel like the sensation of the year starting begins here, right? I mean, the fact that if you're a golf fan, playoff football's winding down, college football's all but done. And I feel like when Torrey kicks things off, you know the golf season is back. And to me, it's felt like that basically since I was a teenager.
Yeah, I mean, it was always the event Tiger Woods started his season at, right? And so that kind of signified the start of the golf year. Johnson, I'm curious, during your playing career, you were a great putter inside 10 feet. I would say here at Torrey Pines, some of the most difficult greens, obviously the POA, the speed, the slope, the pitch, inside 5 feet, that is not a gimme this week. It's very tough to make putts inside 15 feet. As an East Coast guy going west, you mentioned nightmares about number 12. Do you have nightmares about these greens too?
Sometimes, especially when you're in the rookie category and you're playing in some of those last couple of groups off either in the north or the south. And then when you try to putt at Torrey Pines to try to practice, there are 2 putting greens and they're extremely sloped and there's been so much foot traffic on them. If you try to do like a 3-foot to 5-foot drill in the afternoons, you might as well just walk off because you're not going to complete it. Putting on the Poana is brutally difficult, and one of my good friends, Brant Snedeker, has had a ton of success around Torrey Pines. He always hit those short putts with pace. That's what keeps him on line. Now, guys that grow up on the West Coast, like a Maverick McNeely, he's told me that he tries to drip him in the high side. The key thing is when you're putting those short putts at Torrey Pines or Pebble, these weeks coming up with Poana, even Riviera, have a plan. Do you want to hammer them in? Do you want to drip them in? If you get caught in between and get wishy with strokes, that's when you start having long days and long weeks that usually would end with an MC next to your name.
Fly home Friday night. Brant Snedeker, one of the great rounds in Torrey history a few years back. All right, we're going to wrap up the show after the break, and we're going to make Johnson Wagner join Patrick and I with not just can wins, but who's not going to win this week at Torrey Pines. Back here on the Golf on CBS Show, Shane Bacon, Patrick McDonald, Johnson Wagner. Wags, we last year, everybody could do a prediction segment. I mean, everybody can do that, right? But Patrick and I took it one step deeper. We did who's can win every week, and then we had 3 names that cannot win. And this can come back and bite you. It happened to us a couple times, Patrick. But this is part of the segment that when we're making you do it. So now you had to list 3 guys that are going to win this week and 3 guys that aren't going to win. I'm going to let the vet kick us off, Patrick. Who's winning this week? Who's taking home the Farmers Insurance?
It's the hometown kid, Xander Schauffele. He's one of my 3 to win. Obviously, Johnson mentioned the rib injury last year. Xander was unable to play at this event. He's played Torrey Pines 1,000 times. I think he's very motivated coming into this year. But a couple other names. Chris Goddard just won the Sony Open. You look at where he's won, some windy, kind of difficult places where you need to shape the ball, you need to have a little bit of creativity. I think an underrated scrambler too. He's very long off the tee. And then Ryan Gerard's kind of been one of the hottest players in the world. It seems like 3 straight runner-up finishes going up to last year. I think his game translates better on more difficult tests. So he's among my winners. And then the can't win, Shane, it's going to be Brooks in his return. I apologize for that.
Not winning.
He doesn't need more bulletin board material, but I'll give him some. Patrick Cantlay, I know he's a California kid, but it's been since 2022. And then I'm going to go with Harris English. It's just tough to defend.
So, Wags, typically in this segment, Patrick would pick these on the fly. I can tell this year he's doing a little bit more homework. I got Ludwig, I got Matt McCarty, I got Akshay that I think can win. Wags, who do you think can win?
I think it's going to be Jason Day is my pick to win. He's won here twice coming off a T2. I also love Jake Knapp, finished 3rd here his rookie year in 24. Aldrich Potgieter was in that final group, shot 78 last year. He's got the distance to take Torrey down.
And then in my can't win, I got Brooksy not winning, Xander not winning. Sorry, Patrick. And Cantlay, I don't think is going to win either. We got a couple seconds left, Wags. Who's not winning?
I can't hear you. I don't think we have enough time for me to give these picks. I don't.
He's
I don't
kind
know
of getting cut out.
Eckroat, Wyndham Clark, JJ Spawn.
That's okay. Hey, listen, it's not the first time we had to cut out. Of course, Farmers Insurance Open coming your way 3 Eastern Saturday and Sunday right here on CBS and Paramount Plus.